Hello everyone, this is Vet Talk and I'm your host, Sergeant Gonzalo Duran. First, I'd like to start off by saying thank you to our executive producers, JM Empire Media and Vero Productions for making this year our most incredible year. Thank you so much, guys. Also to sponsors such as Has Hearts, a Michigan-based veteran organization that sponsors us through having veterans and artists together to make fashion such as this shirt. So now, today's honored guest is James Young, professor at Monroe College, also an advocate for the LGBT community and a performer. James, now before we start, pronouns, how do I address you?
Yeah, so I use he, him, and they, them pronouns.
Okay.
And the reason why we do that and why I do that everywhere is if more of us share our pronouns, we're letting people know that we respect pronouns and that we don't assume pronouns. And there's a reason why I also use they, them, even though I'm a cisgender person who identifies as he, him. I use they, them because, you know, if I walked out the room and I left my phone here, you might say, oh, they left their phone. And I wouldn't say, oh, I can't believe you used they for me, right? I think we all use they, them, you know what I mean? And so in knowing that it's being used that way anyway, that's why I use they, them, but also there's some people who only exclusively use they, them pronouns only, right? And so therefore, I wanted to be in solidarity with those who use that because I wanted to have that conversation with people to educate that they, them is a singular pronoun as well, and that it's a perfectly fine pronoun to use.
Okay, well, you know, for somebody like myself, a straight individual who's a supporter of the LGBT community, you know, I've only come across some of the words that you've used a handful of times, if that at all. And I've been working in this capacity, let's say, maybe about 10 years. So thank you for, you know, making that known for me as well.
Yeah, and can I ask you what your pronouns are? Like if you left your water bottle behind, you would want someone to say, he left his, she left hers, they left theirs?
I would assume he.
You would want he, him. Yeah, so those are your pronouns.
Okay, there we go. Now I know that part. Thank you for that. I appreciate it. Now, for the general population, at what point do you say that that's a, not, I don't want to say a problem or anything, but like for us to be aware, because I know recently there was a date that came up for National Coming Out Day.
Yeah.
That came out about a week or two ago?
Yeah, on October 11th every year. It's the 35th anniversary of the March in Washington about LGBT rights, about people dying of AIDS, about the sodomy law that was happening in Georgia at the time. So Coming Out Day is actually an anniversary of that. And it was this idea that if everyone came out, then no one would know, no one would be able to say, I don't know anyone that's LGBT, right? Like that was the idea. But the organization I'm part of, Query, we have this other idea, which is, what if we use this day as a day to say thank you for coming out? Because coming out is like complex, it's personal, it's a lifelong process. It can be a public thing, like being on a talk show like this, right? And so coming out is a lot of stuff. And what if we use National Coming Out Day every year to say thank you for coming out, instead of saying things that are like, oh, I knew, or you don't look it, or whatever. People say all kinds of nonsense, like it's a phase. Just say thank you for coming out. Thank you for letting me into your life. Tell me more about you. So that's the thing that we're pushing. And
then, you know, because I can see like saying it that way could probably hurt somebody's feelings.
Right.
You know, they're coming out to make sure that they're open. It's their turn, their time to shine in this situation. And for someone to say like, oh, well, you knew. You know, that's, you know, I could see how that could be hurtful. So, you know, I've never had dealt with that situation, and over the years, you know, I've had people to counsel me, such as Apollonia, Queen of the Bronx, shout out Apollonia, and Reverend Carmen Hernandez to, you know, push me, you know, I don't want to say push me, but guide me in the direction of where to go. Because, you know, I've worked with them over the years for the Pride Parade, you know, the Safe Haven project that we worked on. But once again, these are things, new words that I've never come across, or if I did, maybe a handful of time, like cisgender, you said earlier?
Oh, you're right, cisgender. So every baby that's born, right, we give them a name, we also give them a gender. So we say assigned a gender. And if the doctor assigned you male and you identify as male, that's cisgender. If your doctor assigned you as male but you identify as female, that's transgender. Trans means across, cis means same. Right, so yeah, so that's cisgender and that's transgender. Look at this, we're doing all this education right here.
It's a lot for me to comprehend. I'm probably going to write this down later to go through it later. But now, besides the National Coming Out Day, besides Pride month, I believe it's June, correct?
Yeah.
There's also something coming out soon, or maybe has passed, National Pronoun Day.
Yeah, so on Wednesday of this past week, although the viewers will see this later on, every third Wednesday in October is International Pronouns Day, which started in 2018 to say, hey, listen, if we all started sharing our pronouns, then we make it safer. And when we say all, we mean everyone, right? So straight allies included, right? Because if I came in and you're like, hey, my name is and my pronouns are, I'm gonna feel, as an LGBTQ person, I'm gonna feel a little safer. I'm gonna feel like, oh, this is like seeing a pride flag. It's like, this is a safe area. I can be more myself. And as a professor who teaches, I do this in every one of my classes. And I can't tell you how many students have come up to me on the first day of class after hearing it will say, I didn't know that we could just fully be in class here. I thought I had to like keep my gayness or my transness or whatever like at home, and I couldn't be fully here. And do we really want students to not fully be in the room? How are they going to be learners, right? Or employees, how are employees going to be fully there if they feel like they have to leave a piece of them outside of that space?
Yes, I can see that. That could be a situation. Now in Manhattan, when I came back home in the Bronx, so I left to the military when I turned 18 in 2013, came back home, 8 years later, and a lot of things had changed for me. Just noticing the rainbow flags in a certain area of Manhattan, not understanding, I walked into where did I walk into? To a Cuban restaurant, and I didn't see it at the time and I didn't realize it, but I passed the rainbow flags. There was the restaurant was filled with men, and I noticed I was getting looks at. This is me at a lot younger and thinner and, a little bit more. And I was like, oh, I'm getting a lot of notices here today. Okay. Well, no. And I remember getting a sandwich and sitting down. And then I'm sitting there and all the tables have two men in it. And I was with one of my Marine buddies. And I looked and I did a little like this right here. And I was like, okay, you know what? The sandwich is really good.
Yeah.
So for me, that change, what I'm trying to bring up is that the Bronx has made a lot of changes, and has been more inclusive with the LGBT community. So much so that I wanted to say, working in the capacity, not only having guests on the show, but also events in the community have increased a lot for me over the last 10 years. What's your perspective on the changes that have been going on?
I feel like that's happening too in the Bronx and in New York. And please, we know that New York is a bubble, or at least I feel like it's a bubble that just feels wonderful. But like I have people that I know in Texas and Florida where you could get fired for being queer. You could get kicked out of your home for being queer. I know young people in Texas, there's over 500 anti-LGBT bills circulating in the country right now. And so like in Texas, there's, if you support your trans kid, that's considered child abuse, right? Like, so New York is definitely a bubble that is pretty safe, and we've got more work to do. The flags definitely helps, right? It creates this idea like, oh, this place is safe and I can just be myself. I don't have to like bro up or whatever the language is, right? I can use the bathroom without being harassed. I can order a sandwich and not have to be, dealt with in some way. Yeah. So I think it is getting better. And Monroe College is doing some cool stuff too. Like we had our National Coming Out Day event too.
So you had it there?
Yeah, we had we had National Coming Out Day event at Monroe saying, hey, listen, we want to make sure our students, faculty, and staff feel safe here, right? What's interesting is November 20th every year is Transgender Day of Remembrance. It's a very important day where we highlight how many people have been killed or died by suicide because of bullying, because of their transness. And every year it's a lot of numbers. What's interesting is there's an intersection that happens. These are Black and trans women usually. And so it's, trans lives are important, but we notice there's a racial difference there and there's a gender difference there too. And so we highlight that because we want to make sure that we are continuing the fight to make it safe for everyone.
And one of the things that I'm working on with one of my associates, Reverend Carmen Hernandez, is an anti-LGBT harassment bullying campaign, which should be coming out in a couple of months.
Yeah.
Now, that right there needs to be focused on. I haven't seen too much of it, but I know it happens. I believe the local elderly LGBT community called Sage Center received some graffiti stuff like that, a couple months ago. I don't know how bad it's gotten. You know, I do communicate them on occasion. So that's where we're going to be holding the event to, you know, bring solidarity with the community. Yeah,
that's exciting. And you know, it's not just about picking people out of the dirt, right? I mean, like the graffiti, that's terrible, right? It's not just about that and protecting rights. We also want to encourage LGBTQ folks to flourish and grow and be just like any group of people that are oppressed. It's not just about like, let's stop the oppression. It's about let's get to healing. Let's get to that next step. And I think a lot of us are working on that. Like, and I'm so grateful to you and Reverend Carmen to do that.
So when you said, you know, be more open and stuff like that right now, performing. Now that's something new, something that I haven't seen in the Bronx that often. Now I know there is the BAD. I don't remember the acronym, what it's
Bronx Academy of Arts and Dance. Yeah.
Thank you. Where it's a safe haven for the LGBT community to perform and act. But I know you've performed there. I've seen you perform there. But I know you're a performer and you have music and other actions and stuff like that. Could you give us more information about that?
So I perform as I.Den.T.T. That's I.Den.T.T. And you find me on all the socials, Spotify, Pandora. My music's all out there. But I figured a new way to be an activist was to write music that was about queer experiences. And so some are very straightforward, excuse the pun, in regards to being queer focused, like my song Queerphoria. That's queer euphoria, put together, Queerphoria. And so, yeah, it's about spreading queer joy in any way it can and talking about queer experiences and relationships. And I found it's a fun way to do that. And then I also get to put on a persona because identity only uses they, them pronouns, right? And so I put on the boots, I got the outfits and the sparkles. James doesn't really do sparkles and glitter. Glitter's like the I don't know, like the STD of paper. I'm like, ew, gross. You get it on you, you can't get it off. But identity gets to do all that and have fun. And I get to play in that kind of dragish world. And then at the college, I get to put on a tie and play in that dragish world, right? Because drag is just clothes, right? You and I were talking just beforehand how this is not how we dress, right? So I think clothes is interesting. So that's another way in which I'm playing, but also giving other people permission to play. And I think that's really the key.
So now, with all the work that you've been doing, the advocacy, the music, is there anything coming up that you want to tell the people to look out for?
Oh yeah, my newest song is a remix. Thanks for reminding me. It's called Out on the Floor, the remix. It's Together remix, the number 2 remix. And that's blowing up everywhere. It came out around National Coming Out Day. I wrote it 30 years ago as a ballad for, this is before marriage equality was a thing, right? So I thought I would never be able to get married. I thought I could never find someone to love me, let alone a community of people, right? And so I had this dream, and I wrote this song called Out on the Floor because we finally get to be out on the floor as a couple, right? Yeah, so I did that, and then I did a remix. My producers, who are also in the Bronx, they're amazing. They came up with this remix, and we dropped it. It's just blowing up everywhere, and there's a music video coming out in November, so I'm excited to show that too.
That's going to be awesome. For the audience out there, could you tell them one more time how they can reach out to you?
Yeah, so they can go to I.Den.T.T. They can use that and look me up on Spotify, Pandora, all the streaming platforms. And the best way to be in touch with me directly is on Instagram.
Well, James, thank you for being here.
Oh my
thank you for giving us some more information. For the viewers out there, once again, you have National Coming Out Day, you have National Pronouns Day, National
Transgender Day of Remembrance.
Transgender Day of Remembrance coming up November
20th.
So you already know that there's an outlet for them. One of my main things is End the Stigma campaign. Yeah. Trying to, you know, whatever your situation, where you are in the spectrum of the LGBT to straight community, losing a life should never be a situation that should come up. So that's where we stand for that. Do you want to say something?
Yeah, just one more thing. So in the past, we've done a lot of work. My organization, Query, QUEERY.US, that's the website. You can find a lot of stuff that we do which makes queer theory fun, not just academic. And we worked with Sparta, and do you know Sparta?
No.
And with Minority Vets. They're both organizations that support LGBTQ vets. So
Minority Vets, yes.
Yeah, so we want to make sure that if you're a veteran out there and you're LGBTQ, you can reach out to Sparta, just Google them, and you can reach out to Minority Vets.
So with that being said, once again, there's opportunities for you. Please never always look out for help. Besides that, I just want to say thank you for joining us. If you'd like to be a guest on Vet Talk, please feel free to reach out at ceo@devildogusainc.org, or feel free to check out our website at www.devildogusainc.org. As always, God bless America. And we're good.
Yeah.
Thank
Oh
you,
my
James.
goodness.
Appreciate
Thank
it.
you. Appreciate it. That was so sweet.